You are live on 98.9 Northwest FM. This is the Tuesday Review. The first time with a full studio in a while. I'm Nathan. As always, joined by James. What's something's made you happy in the last week, James?
Oh,
Or two?
I don't know. I've been more politically active, been volunteering, going to protests and stuff. So, I mean, it, just feels good to be doing something to try to actively, make change for the better.
Yeah, that's good.
I don't know, yeah.
As for Alan, how you doing, Alan? What's made you happy?
I made a nice gnocchi with brown butter and sage on the weekend. And had some seared tuna with that.
Nice.
That made me happy.
Also joined by Callum. What's made you happy in the last couple of weeks, Callum?
Not long ago, before we started recording, Alan fixed my phone, which has been had a broken charge report for quite some time. So shout out to Alan for helping out the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Do what I can.
As for me, I had a nice little cheeky Nando's yesterday. That made me happy.
Succulent Nando's meal.
Yes.
And happy succulent Chinese New Year.
Oh, Lunar New Year, yeah.
And happy Ramadan.
Year of the Horse?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Is today the first day of Ramadan?
That's tomorrow, as of this recording.
Oh,
Depends.
tomorrow.
Also depends where you live and what kind of faith you are, because different people celebrate it on different kind of when they argue when the moon is full or whatever it is. And there's always a bit of vigorous discussion in the communities on
it's
what it actually starts. But it's around this time. We'll get straight into it. So we've seen a few new movies recently, which is James probably goes more than the rest of us, but we've made the effort and we've seen some interesting looking films.
Mm-hmm.
We'll start with Iron Lung, Markiplier's first foray into feature films.
Yeah.
Alan, do you know much about this man on the YouTubes, or James?
I know of him. I know of his huge popularity.
He's one of the biggest Let's Players out there, biggest YouTubers.
The only thing I know is there are lots of memes about how handsome he is. That's all I know.
Yeah, he's among YouTube, especially this corner of YouTube I inhabit, has frequently been an area of men for men.
There
ain't nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
Don't spend any more time on it. But Markiplier has always been in that contrast of his audience has always been 50-50. There's a lot of people thirsting over him, both male and female and other.
He's also, from what I understand, he's one of the least toxic YouTubers.
Yeah, he's just a good guy, apparently.
Yeah, there's a lot of big YouTubers who are kind of real toxic. So I've followed Markiplier for a long time. I mean, he's been around for a long time, 15 years or something, since early days of YouTube. And I used to watch his Let's Plays, and I haven't watched him much recently. But yeah, I mean, he's just one of the biggest YouTubers out there, and he self-funded this kind of sci-fi horror movie.
A video game adaptation.
Yeah, based on a small indie game that he played on his channel, and that was quite. There was a buzz around it because there's a big indie horror game community and a Let's Play community around that. So I think the game came out in 2021, but Markiplier didn't play it till 22 or 23. And it just kind of blew up. It's a very simple game, very low poly graphics. It's first person, and you play as a convict who's welded into a metal submersible. That's a makeshift because it's not meant for the depths, so they weld it together, weld it shut. There's no porthole, nowhere to look out of. There's only a camera you can use to look outside, and it's set in the future where all the planets have disappeared, and only the spaceships and space stations that are already in orbit are still around. So it's pretty interesting. It's called they call it the apocalypse, the quiet rapture.
Yes.
Which is a pretty interesting concept for
and it's a planet covered in an ocean of blood.
Yeah, but they do find a moon covered in blood, and so they send this convict welded into this submersible down into this ocean of blood. And it's a very simple game. You're only in this one little, few meter by few meter submersible. You can't see anything, so you have to check your map, like what coordinates you are, move the submersible using like the coordinates, and then check your map to see if you're in the right place, and then you can take a photo of like the outside of the depths of this blood ocean. And occasionally, you catch weird creatures and old like Leviathan bones and stuff. And it's more just about the atmosphere. The deeper you go, the more you explore, and your submersible starts to get, feel the pressure, and you start hearing things outside, even though nothing's supposed to be out there. So yeah, it's just like a horror kind of atmospheric kind of game. Very simple. Takes like an hour to play. And I guess Markiplier liked it so much that he spent the last like 3 years trying to make it into a movie himself, like self-funded.
And he certainly did it.
And I think, considering he's a first-time director for feature films, anyway, I don't know if he's done shorts before. And also like he's done acting before, but like this is his first like main, theatrical role, and he's basically the only one on screen the whole time because he plays the convicts.
Having a YouTube background really helps because they already have an understanding.
It's part of a performance.
Performance. Also, they have a basic understanding of editing.
Even shooting.
Like
like
camera
the whole
angles, lighting. Yeah.
Even though filming a feature is very different than filming a YouTube, a lot of those same elements work together.
Yeah.
I mean, but that didn't help Shelby Oaks very much.
Well, that was still competently made. It just wasn't very good, and the writing really let down. I think Iron Lung, is like Markiplier does a good job. It's competently made. Like for a first-time director, like it's decently shot and edited. Like his performance is pretty good. Like it's not as
no, it's not
disastrous.
Overacted,
yeah, it's not as the whole movie isn't as disastrous as it could have been, especially self-funding it and having the decision to star in it himself. Like that could have been a disaster.
Well, it made him sick at one point.
Why, just being locked
blood.
up in? Oh yeah, apparently this movie has broken the record for the amount of fake blood used on screen. So
I think he got him pink eye or something. No, I'm serious. I mean, he was in hospital and he was he was quite sick.
Oh, because of splashing in his eyes and whatnot.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that this movie doing well has pissed Hollywood off a little bit, because they're brushing it off as like it's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
And let's not get carried away. Like the studios are still the only game in town.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is because we talk about indie movies a lot and how like Hollywood is still like holding on to the idea of what a real quote unquote real movie is. And, there are a lot of YouTubers who make movies and put them on YouTube, but those aren't considered real movies. And it's like still only when you get... Now they're streaming, so it's different. They're straight to streaming movies. But it's like the big Hollywood studios are still like the arbiters of like, this is a real movie.
They're being gatekeepers.
Yeah. And so I think what's interesting about this is that even though it's self-funded, like because he's so popular and he has been around for so long... He was I think it's $3 million budget, so it's not just like a couple hundred bucks or 100,000
or like you're getting your mates to work on it.
He's still at a place. He might not be known as a filmmaker and an actor, but he's still in a place where he can get it made for a decent enough amount without like a studio backing, and then on top of that, I guess it could have gone straight to streaming or it could have gone straight to YouTube, and that would have still been a big deal. Yeah. But the fact that it's gone to mainstream cinemas around the world,
that's the exciting
with multiple showings, multiple screenings.
Especially it's going to local chain cinemas, not just hipster auto cinemas. Yeah, it's going to like your local big franchise cinema.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty impressive that...
And it helps that he was also worth like $45 million before the movie even came out.
And it helps that he's starring... Like, if he just made the movie and it was like written and directed by Markiplier or whatever, I think it still would have had a big buzz around it. But I think the fact that he's in it also adds an extra layer of like people who are just
capitalized
really
on his
into YouTube, because there was a few people in our screening who were like younger than us, were probably just more into his YouTube stuff and were just excited to see Markiplier in a movie. And I feel like a lot of the audience was.
I think like all of that's fair.
That's valid.
And it does, I guess, give Hollywood some argument to say, well, this is an exception because it kind of
Yeah,
is.
there is a little asterisk.
There is a little asterisk, but it's also not on Hollywood. It's not really also Hollywood's place to be dampening on other people's excitement.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, they're heaping shit on this movie because, it's don't get excited, kids. There's no indie revival. It's just one movie.
If they're smart, like they'd go to Markiplier and be like, let's make another one.
This is the thing that frustrates me about Hollywood too. You would think, like, this movie only cost $3 million to make, right? Or that was his budget. You see this movie do really well. Cool, all right? Instead of making a $200 million animated feature, then you just set up a little fund and be like, here, YouTube creators, indie darlings, whatever.
Well, that's what we've always talked about. Is these huge studios spend $300 million on garbage, and then and all the best movies coming out are like the lower budget A24 neon stuff.
Like, instead of resenting Markiplier for his efforts with Iron Lung,
say
here's $50 million, Mark. Go make some movies, mate. Cap it at $5 million a film. Go nuts.
Yeah, the big Hollywood studios will definitely take the wrong lesson from Iron Lung's success.
They can't help it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's what you can do if you have the right drive. He's already popular. Sure, that gives him a leg up.
Yeah.
But it can be done.
That's also not that kind of far off to the olden days. Like, one of my favorite things is always looking at a video of Anthony Mackie kind of having a bit of a whinge. He's like, back in my day, we used to go see the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie or the Sylvester Stallone movie.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't go to see
because we don't have
the
movie
Iron Man
stars
film.
anymore.
Yeah.
We don't have action stars in the same way.
We didn't go to see this Marvel film. We went to see the actor in whatever film they were in. And that's what happened for Markiplier.
Yeah.
It wasn't because it was the Iron Lung. It was because Markiplier was making a movie. And
he could become a star.
To be fair, if Markiplier, like for a cinephile like myself, like, and a horror fan and a video game fan and indie horror like adaptation, if he wasn't in it, I would still be interested in seeing what he does, like, just as a filmmaker. And also making an Iron Lung movie. Like I said, it's a very simple game, very simple premise. It's basically just all atmosphere. Like, adapting that into a feature film, like, that would be interesting. Like, I would still be interested in it. But yeah, you're right. Like, the fact that he's in it is like, it's a Markiplier movie.
He's we'll call it current YouTube era of superstar.
Yeah.
That's bringing a draw to it. Also, fun fact I do want to mention: the developer of Iron Lung mentioned during the Titan submersible collapse, there was a huge uptick in downloads of that game.
Oh yeah,
he's like, people are weird. I do wonder, like, with that collapse happening and the tragedy that it was Markiplier already on the way to making this a film, or like did that sway him and stuff? That's
I don't think. I think it's just coincidence.
Yeah, but more so, I'm like, was that a thing that he's like, maybe I shouldn't make a film about this?
They changed
maybe
last minute rewrites in the movie. Instead of prisoners, as billionaires.
Yeah, I would have been happier. Yeah, but yeah, so. After all said and done, I think it's an okay movie.
Okay film.
It looks decent enough. It's edited decent enough. He gives a pretty good central performance, considering he's basically the only one on screen for the whole movie.
I think it was a little too long.
There is, but just in terms of the positives, it's actually decent. There's some really cool ideas that are from the game, and that the developer of the game helped Markiplier co-write the screenplay for the movie and flesh out some of the ideas.
Screenplay is also an apt kind of terminology for the movie. Yeah.
Copyright Tuesday review. We're going to use that for something.
Is it like a supernatural script?
Yeah. It's a horror movie about a haunted screenplay. Screenplay. That's like
that's where I was getting to.
Like, dear God, please help me. So I think it's actually for a decent, for a first film based on an indie game, video game adaptations in general are cursed. I think it's decent enough, has some cool special effects, looks okay, edited well, performance okay. I think, like I said, the developer came out, had some ideas, and the idea of the quiet rapture and all the planets disappearing and only like space stations and spaceships already out there, just trying to survive by salvaging and trying to figure out what's going on. I think that's a really interesting idea, more interesting than the movie, of course, but just as the background to the the story in the movie is interesting.
I think it does some really interesting things with the kind of, I guess, the scope of the story, because obviously a lot of it is told and not really shown, right? Because that's just the nature of
there
the
is a lot of
budget.
exposition,
But that's fine. I like a couple of things that are kind of shown or briefly kind of you get a chance to look at is kind of like the mild spoilers, like the angelic kind of figure.
Yeah.
The kind of what they refer to as something kind of like
The
from
light.
God or the light.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of that religious angle in the movie is kind of cool.
I mean, that's not in the game. That's obviously something they.
But I appreciated it, and it felt very kind of Neon Genesis Evangelion coded to me. Like it's got that kind of quasi-religious, but not how you expect it to be, and like it's very dramatic, very kind of end of the world kind of figure. Kind of flipped. It's like religion.
Get in the red damn robot. Shinji is get in the damn submersible. Mark.
Yeah, get in the damn submersible, Mark. But it had that kind of feel to it a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, there's some Cthulhu kind of cool stuff in
here.
here.
Yeah, there is, minus spoilers, there is a creature that's really well designed, like really creepy. I also think the design of the submersible, because most of the movie just takes place in the interior of this. Pretty much the entire thing takes place in the interior of the submersible, and he's done a good job of like making it look like the low poly kind of, simple design of the game, but also like feasibly enough to where you're like, oh yeah, that kind of looks like a, obviously it's science fiction, it's not real, but it's like. It's like, the big green button that you push to take the photos. That's obviously from the game because it makes the gameplay easier. So you click your mouse on the big green button, and it's like in the movie too. I'm like, oh, it doesn't look bad. Like it kind of makes sense.
Like you can understand when it's a crude kind of product being put together.
Yeah,
makeshift.
Also,
like there's not a lot of resources.
It also makes sense from a logistical perspective of like you're assuming all these people are prisoners, they might not have high intelligence. You're just going to make it simple to pass.
Everything's very simple.
So it's kind of like
And I did appreciate like instead of like the big buttons that you have in the game because you're just clicking it with your mouse, like he does have the throttle that you can move up and back, and there are some actually I really liked the movie is too long, which we'll get into soon, but I really liked maybe the first third or half, where a lot of it is him just like problem solving, and like, there's a bit where he finds a clipboard and he uses it to push the throttle forward so he doesn't always have to sit on the throttle. There's, a bit where he's searching around for like what he can find, and, those are the bits I like. We've talked about before, it's like watching people problem solve and like
and do it realistically, not
and,
like
and
everything just like in a second.
Yeah, and long periods of no dialogue and him just kind of figuring out, like looking at the map and drawing on it and going, if I go here, and then writing down, and then taking a photo of what's outside and going, okay, this is this landmark, and he marks it on the map. I'm like, that stuff's really cool. And even though it's like maybe dragged out a little, like I kind of like that slowness, because it wasn't just him like teleporting through editing to the next thing. So I think there is a lot of pros. There's also a scene at the beginning where before they close the porthole, he goes into the ocean, the blood ocean, then resurfaces, and they open the porthole, and there's blood like trickling down the window of the porthole, and he's talking to someone on the other side. And like the captain, I think she has to keep wiping the blood away to talk to him. I thought that was a really great scene. I really liked that. It's a lot of exposition and whatever, but I was like, she just has to keep wiping.
It's the small details.
Yeah, and it just keeps dripping, and I really liked that. I thought that was really cool. So I think there's a lot to like about the movie, and I didn't hate it. Some people are like, this is the worst piece of shit ever, but I think it's an okay attempt, and it's got some cool sci-fi horror ideas, and it has its moments.
Yeah.
But it's at least half an hour. It's 2 hours long. It's at least half an hour too long for this simple premise that doesn't need to be dragged out this long, especially the latter part of the movie.
I think simple movies, just aim for a tight 90. Like with this kind of film, aim for a tight 90.
Yeah.
You don't need to drag it out.
Or, unless
you're Scorsese.
Oh, yeah. Or again, like, if they had maybe a bigger budget, they could have done more. They do some flashbacks in the movie, which are, kind of whatever.
If the story is bigger and...
Yeah, I was like, maybe you could do more flashbacks but it's like, you really didn't need it. It's a horror movie about a guy trapped in an iron lung at the bottom of the blood ocean, and he can't see anything, and he has to navigate using the coordinates, and then occasionally he can take photos. And I was like, that's where the horror, that's the interesting stuff. So yeah, I think it's just way too long, especially towards the end of the film where they start introducing the god light kind of element, and he's like hearing voices and having these really long conversations, and then there's like all this stuff about his past, and he's like he's a killer, and it's just like it's dragging on, and it's like it like loses a lot of the horror, and loses a lot of the interesting, like, no dialogue at the start, and it becomes kind of less and less effective. And then the end is just like shaky cam and like really dark cinematography. You can't see anything. And
that's another problem I had with this movie. I feel like the dark scenes weren't lit well enough.
Yeah, but I think it gets worse as it goes. Obviously, as the lights start going out, and then at the end, where it's like literally the camera's just flying around, and he's just like flying around, and I'm just like, it's just like I wasn't interested anymore. And then it ended. I was like, whatever. Like, so I think, it's not a complete disaster. And I do kind of appreciate it. And I think when we've talked about movies like Shelby Oaks and other indie movies, it's like I'm willing to forgive a lot of its flaws because it is, an indie passion project. So yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's just like kind of cool that he did it, and it wasn't a complete disaster. But overall, there are some people saying it's a masterpiece and whatever, but it's not really that good. And yeah, needed to be a lot shorter, and maybe considering he's self-funding it, maybe, have even less dialogue. That would have been, I think, even more interesting, and have him be even more isolated.
How cool would it be? It's almost a silent film.
Yeah.
Apart from the clanks and the atmospheric
because I mean,
sounds from the Iron Lung.
in the game, there's the opening text that sets up the quiet rapture, and that you're the prisoner in the Iron Lung. And then there's the person, the captain or whatever, who's lowering you into the blood, is like, gives you a quick rundown, and he's like, and then the communication cuts off because you go too deep. And then that's it. The rest of the game is just silent, and you hear like the sounds and the weird stuff and the creaking. So, I mean, that would have been really interesting if that happened in the movie. But yeah, there's a lot of like, he reestablishes communication with the surface, and then he has flashbacks, and there's talking in those. And I was like, I don't really care about this stuff about his past. And yeah, so it probably could have been shorter, simpler. I think they could have come up with a better ending. I don't know exactly what. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, not a complete disaster. I enjoyed a lot of elements of it, but yeah, not a great movie.
Yeah, I give it like an okay film. That's the same thing I said to Jake. And I think Jake is one of the individuals that, like, I think he absolutely adores Markiplier.
Yeah.
Because he's watched a lot of his stuff, and he, I think, genuinely appreciates Markiplier's kind of content overall, so he enjoyed it probably more than we would. Purely owing to the fact
Did Jake see it?
Yes.
Okay.
He's the one that advised us to see it. He's like, look, give it a go for the Tuesday review. But he thought it was a good movie, but nothing extravagant.
Yeah.
Whereas I'd say it's an okay film.
It's okay, yeah.
That's where I'd kind of put it. One thing I do appreciate, this is mild spoilers for the actual game, is the ending wasn't just fish.jpg. Because when you see the scene, like, the first time it hits you, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But the moment you watch it again, that ending, and you're just like, that's just a crude JPEG of a scary fish. Yeah,
it's the whole game just leads up to a jump scare.
Yeah.
So obviously they didn't want to do that for the movie, but yeah, I would have appreciated maybe something else. Or yeah, there's a movie called All Is Lost with Robert Redford, where he's like a sailor, like he's on a little sailboat and he gets lost at sea, and like there's pretty much no dialogue in the whole movie, and it's just him patching it up and trying, bailing water and trying to survive. So yeah, I mean, you definitely can do it. And with this added horror, sci-fi, Cthulhu, Leviathan, like extra element, like, it could have been great, but yeah, it's just kind of okay.
Yeah. I think it's interesting that, an indie movie, truly indie movie, can be this popular, and hopefully the trend continues.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we might go to a very quick break before we move on with the show. And I think we're going to have similar problems with our next film, to an extent.
What's our next one?
Send Help.
Oh, yeah, definitely similar problems.
We'll be back right after these quick messages. You are back on the Tuesday Review live on 98.9 Northwest FM. Moving along, we also had the opportunity over the weekend to see the new Sam Raimi film, Send Help, which has kind of been advertised, at least via word of mouth and social media, as like his return to
everyone's like,
nasty
Sam
horror.
Raimi's return to horror.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the Hoist listing was like horror/comedy.
Yeah.
And I was like,
And
it's neither of those things.
I think it's definitely comedy.
It has comedy
Elements
Yeah.
of, but it's not funny.
The trailer as well is very like, it's all the moments of like them screaming and blood everywhere and
it's like, what,
stabbing
10
and
minutes
it's like,
of the entire film.
yeah, which when you get to the 2-hour movie is very short.
I was expecting like just craziness, like people lose their mind and go
Yeah.
full cannibal and
Yeah.
like
I assume we'll get into it. The way it's advertised is I assumed they weren't alone. What would be the driving factor between the terror?
I'm like
Or-
people are advertising to me cannibal Holocaust levels violence, and I don't think I got that.
No, people online were talking about how people online were talking about the gore made them feel uncomfortable, and I was like, this is interesting. Like
This happens with every horror movie, and we're always disappointed.
Sam
because
Raimi's.
people-
This is Sam Raimi's, and I say this is in italics, right?
Yeah.
Return to horror since 2009's Drag Me to Hell. So it's like the build up is kind of, you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
Because like before that he did a Wizard of Oz film of some sort,
Yeah, between then and
and then
now,
he
it's
did
just
a Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, just crap.
Yeah, just crap.
CG crap.
And then like finally the man is back in his element. It's not a franchise film.
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
it's
let's
him
get-
directing a film.
It's
He
like
wants to
two-
make.
Let's get nasty like the Evil Dead. Let's go. And
Yeah.
like we didn't get it.
And then
we
we
got moments of it, but then even then it was
pulled
so
back.
CG garbage.
In my review,
And
I
it
was like,
pulled
it's
back
ju-
from what it could have been.
It's like a
Yeah.
thriller character drama on an island.
yeah,
I'm like,
but
that's
even
fine.
the character stuff isn't. Anyway, like I guess to
So let's
Yeah,
sum up.
well,
We'll give a quick synopsis of the film. So it's about what's her face?
Rachel McAdams plays
Linda Little.
Linda Little.
plays
that's it.
Linda Little, who's like an accountant.
She works with
business
strategy
She's
and
not an
planning.
accountant.
Strategy and
She's
planning.
not an
Thank you.
accountant.
Thank
That's
you.
it. See, you're a part of the problem.
That's a movie reference that
Yeah.
viewers who've seen the movie would
Yeah.
appreciate.
But she works in an office, and she's very good with numbers, and she works very hard at this company. She has for many years, and she was promised a promotion by the former boss, who passes away, and his kind of douchebag yuppie son,
Inherits the company.
played by Dylan O'Brien.
Bruce Campbell cameos as the dead father in photos.
The painting, the
Yeah.
painting, yeah. I did the Leonardo DiCaprio point in the
Yes.
cinema and was like, Bruce. So Dylan O'Brien plays Bradley. Is that his character's name?
Bradley
Yes.
Preston.
Who's this kind of, stuck up kind of rich kid who's taking over
A
his
dude bro,
father's...
yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like a dude bro.
Takes over his father's business and obviously doesn't like or appreciate Rachel McAdams' character, Linda's contributions, and she's very reserved and very awkward and not socially...
Also, this movie plays into... It's a minor niggle that I don't like in these kinds of films where it's like, let's get the really attractive movie star.
Oh, the glasses, yeah.
And you put glasses, change her hairstyle, and she's ugly, bruh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
no
they
one
try-
wants to be around Rachel McAdams.
Yeah. Even
No one wants to be around frumpy Linda Little. And it's like, she's obviously a smoke show.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I
Classic,
mean?
yeah.
They put her
Yeah.
in conservative clothing, put some glasses on her, and pretend she's ugly. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Classic.
Classic,
Hollywood.
just Hollywood.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, she takes the glasses off, fixes her hair. She's
Yeah.
like 10 out of 10.
Gosh,
Everyone's
yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Adam Sandler falling over. That's like, because of course.
Yeah.
Come on, Sam, you're better than this.
That's not really a problem with them. That's at least
but
the movie's
That's
problem.
at least the movie's problems. But it's still, it's like,
Yeah.
don't pretend she's ugly.
It's a
for the comedy.
cliche that's been so overused.
It's overused and kind of sexist and
Yeah.
just
Overused like almost everything.
well,
Anyway, we'll
there's
get there.
movies-
But yeah, so they crash land on an
Yeah.
island due to an electrical fault in their plane off the Gulf of near the Gulf of Thailand or whatever.
Yeah, they're going to Thailand for a big business
Yeah.
thing. The dude bro boss Bradley invites Linda reluctantly, basically so she can do all the work,
work
while
while
him
they
and his
yuck it up on the
bros
plane.
yuck it up. Yeah, and also just to sort of appease her, so she shuts up about her promotion.
Yeah, he probably feels a little bit of guilt as well.
Maybe a little bit. And then, the plane crashes on a deserted island. Only Linda and Bradley are the ones left. And now the dynamic has changed, whereas he, he's normal...
injured, and so he has to initially rely on her.
Yeah, in the normal world, he's the affluent, boss who can boss her around and basically can fire her at any point or whatever and tell her what to do. Now on the island, she's like a survivor nut, like the TV show.
Yeah.
And she's really into that stuff. And he's injured, so she has to kind of look after him. And the dynamic changes where she's like, I'm in charge now.
Yeah.
You can't tell me what to do anymore. You have to be nice to me. And it's kind of a back and forth of like, at first he's really mean, and then he realizes he needs her. And so then he's like nice, but then he's like kind of mean again. And then it's like just a back and forth of like the dynamic changing. It's a 2-hour movie, and it's not really interesting enough. It doesn't sustain that character dynamic well enough for that length.
Yeah, I think the problem is that the way they handle the character conflict, it goes back and forth too many times.
Yeah.
So the character, there's a whole dance of, do I trust you? Do you trust me? Are our motivations going to conflict? And then if they do conflict, what lengths are we going to go to get our own way? And that it just kind of goes in circles for a while. And like things should pick up pace. They should develop quicker, but they just kind of get stale.
It kind of does the same thing too many times.
It also relies overly much on the tropes we've seen from these kinds of movies before, where it's like, oh no, it's raining, we have to get shelter. Oh, what are we going to do for food? What are we going to do for water?
Yeah. Almost everything in the movie we've seen before.
Yeah.
Survival techniques and on deserted island. But even at the length the movie is, I was surprised that there's a lot of montage and a lot of just cutting to they have food or cutting to they have shelter. There is some bits of like her making stuff and whatever. But I was kind of like, I would have been, kind of with what I said earlier about Iron Lung. It's like, I kind of like seeing that process of like figuring it out, like spearfishing, making the spear, then spearfishing.
So even her teaching him something and then him learning to do things himself.
To an extent, I just feel like this dragged on a bit.
Yeah,
100%.
In the middle, it was kind of just a lot
especially because it's just the two characters for the most of the movie, and like we said, the dynamic is back and forth. It's basically the same thing, back and forth, back and forth.
No lessons are learned.
Yeah, and also like because the trailer was like, oh, crazy. Like I thought their dynamic was going to get more and more extreme as it went on.
I was expecting misery on an island.
Yeah. And there is elements of that, but it always pulls back a bit.
Yeah, he never gets too close to being grotesque.
Yeah. And then there's some moments of like, will they, won't they, in terms of relationship. Like he obviously never liked her before, but now she's free on the island and she's beautiful and she's sort of proving herself to be so resourceful. And he's kind of like, oh, I'm kind of into it. But they never really go far with that either.
In terms of the gore.
Oh yeah.
The CG, there's a boar in the film. Mild spoilers for Send Help. And it's just like very clearly a CGI balloon of some sort, and then they start.
What happened?
The amount of you can tell Sam Raimi.
You can tell that the boar is like hiding like a blood hose, which is just good. And I was like,
and then what they do is like there's blood, but then they add CGI blood, so it just makes it look even worse. It's just the whole thing. Like, and there's so it's not just the boar. It's like multiple points in the movie, just awful CGI, green screen where they're walking across the island. It's
what happened, James?
Hollywood, money.
There are moments though that are Raimi. We had a similar conversation with Multiverse of Madness, where, like in my review for the website, I phrased it as flashes in the pan, where it's like it's right. You're like, oh, there he is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then they're quick. As soon as you see them, they're gone.
Yeah, the crazy, over-the-top, zany, cartoony Sam Raimi bits are awesome. When something crazy like it happens in Send Help, like with Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, it was like, oh yeah, that's it. I love that. That's crazy.
Yeah, there he is.
There is. But then the rest of the movie just happens as like normal, and it's like,
it's like
whatever.
they got him in for a few shots.
Yeah.
And then they just sent him over and put his name on the film.
Yeah. And then there are those crazy moments, and there's like so much crappy CGI that it's like
there are even some really bad moments where I'm like, that's still Raimi.
Yeah.
Like there's a scene where you see like a face.
Yeah.
And then
a jump scare.
I'm like, it sucks, but it's Raimi.
Yeah. It was so awesome, but it's also like
it was crap, but it was like it was like, but okay, there still has his essence in there.
Yeah. But I think because of his older movies in, the gore and like Evil Dead and stuff, it's like the practical effects were part of the fun. And now I think even in Drag Me to Hell, which I didn't really like because it had too much CGI garbage, like people have just accepted that, like, oh, it's cartoony, it's supposed to be fake. And I'm like, but it looks bad, it's lazy.
Yeah.
There's no impact or weight to it like there was in the older horror movies. It's just so ugly and flat.
You can do cartoony while making it look awesome. Correct me if I'm wrong. Army of Darkness with the skeletons.
Yeah,
were they
very
like
cartoony.
claymation? Or were they?
It was mostly like puppets and animatronic.
I'm like, again, it's cartoony. It's silly,
exactly. Yeah,
but it works.
All the Evil Dead, or lots of Darkman, or like a lot of Sam Raimi movies are very cartoony, but with practical effects. And even with like the first two Spider-Man movies, where you do have a lot of digital and CGI, it's like still like there are like sets and like there is still a practical element to it.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a big superhero movie, so you can make some sort of, can sort of give it some sort of.
I mean, it's interesting you mentioned sets. One of the big problems with this film is even though it is set on one location, the island, we spend most of our time on the beach in the camp. There are a few moments where we get to explore, and that's interesting.
I feel like
it's again they just come back and like, oh look, I found berries. I'm like, okay, that's fine.
There definitely was location shooting in this, and I appreciate that. But it is very limited to like just the beach, and then a couple of shots, and then anytime they go in,
I feel like they found a good beach, and they're like, we're shooting it here with green screen. And anytime they're on the island or in the island,
even like wide shots of the island, it's like very CG heavy. Anytime they're walking like on these rocks,
they're in the sound stage.
Yeah,
James,
it's very clearly. It just looks really bad.
Except the one shot, maybe the waterfall that might have been somewhere on a location.
Yeah, that looked kind of pretty good.
Yeah. Other than that,
yeah. So I don't think it was very, not very.
Wasn't very adventurous in the way it was.
Yeah, and it wasn't. There are crazy moments, but I was just kind of always like shrug my shoulders. It's just CGI garbage, or it's like such a fleeting moment that I was like, whatever.
I mentioned Misery earlier. Misery is mostly set in the one location, but it's tense as
one
hell.
of the great movies. Yeah,
it's so well
greatest
made.
movies.
It's brutal.
Rob Reiner, right?
Yeah.
Rest in peace, goat.
Yeah. R.I.P. Robert Duvall today too. Did you see? Yeah, crazy.
But yeah, like you look at what Misery did with the tension and the violence, and it's not just the actual violence; it's the implied violence too.
Yeah,
we get very little
psychological.
Of that. We get very little of that. We get a few moments where it's like, "Oh, she means business," or "Oh, what's she going to do?" And then they always pull back.
Yeah, and because Send Help, a lot of it is played for laughs, which is fine. Which is probably
that's probably also his biggest fault. So it's like
Takes
Sam Raimi's like it's more of a comedy
out.
where it should have been more like Misery.
Yeah.
Right? There's no laugh. It should have been there's no laughs here, man. A man's getting slowly killed. You know what I mean? Or a woman's getting slowly killed. Like it should be tension. And instead they're kind of like, no, we can have some ha-has, and it deflates the film to an extent.
Yeah. I think also the ending is really disappointing, and there's there's a big tense scene at the end, and I was literally like, I do not care.
Yeah,
I couldn't care less.
There's a twist in this film which we won't talk about.
Yeah.
But it completely renders most of the movie dumb.
And I don't want to. I'll spoil it if I say it. There's another movie from a few years ago that had like more awards hype and stuff that has a similar twist. And like that obviously was a much better, more interesting movie. Yeah. I mean, this is a different movie to that, but.
But yeah, like once you see the twist, you're like, well, what is the point of any of this?
Yeah. Also, like this is
it will never happen.
I know this is a lot of people. This movie is actually getting a really good buzz about it. People are mostly positive about it, and I understand. It's a fun kind of silly horror comedy. Not really horror, but it's got that element of.
I would have a different feeling towards the movie if it wasn't labeled so aggressively as gory horror.
Yeah, marketing. But like even then, like there are some movies where it's like, oh, I thought there was a horror movie, but in reality, it's actually something different. But if it's still good, it's good. Whereas this is like it's different and it's also not that good. So
yeah.
But I understand like it's supposed to be funny and zany and whatever. But I was just like, at the end of the day, I was like, it's stuff we've seen before. There wasn't anything really particularly, memorable or like. I think the best thing about it, there is some there's a couple of cool scenes, but I think the best thing about it and the reason I thought it was like okay at the very least. I mean, Rachel McAdams is always good. She's amazing. But I think Dylan O'Brien is really, really good as the asshole boss.
Yeah.
I think he gives the best performance in the movie. He's got these little like, laugh, this little twitch.
Yeah.
He makes all these little funny noises.
He's also good at displaying vulnerability when he needs
Yeah, like
to.
there are parts where he's an asshole, but you feel sorry for him. So yeah, I thought he was really good. And so, the dynamic between the two characters and the two actors is good, but it's just not well written enough, and it gets repetitive.
The screenplay's just bad.
And it goes nowhere in the end. I was just that was a waste of 2 hours.
Raimi is, even at his worst, an interesting director.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not saying it's all the screenplay's fault, but I feel like even someone like Raimi, who's interesting at his worst, can only do so much with a screenplay that's just boring.
Yeah. 100%.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So I would say go see Iron Lung at the cinemas if you can, but maybe wait for streaming for Send Help.
Send Help, yeah.
On another note, before we move on a related topic, one of the kind of better myth films we've enjoyed over the last few years is now on Shudder. Bird Eater is now on Shudder for people to watch.
It's on Netflix here in Australia, isn't it?
I don't know, but
I think we talked about it. I can't remember.
It's on Australian Shudder as well. So
actually, maybe we'll talk about this next week.
Yeah.
The Last Grind. What was it? Emotion is Dead.
Yeah,
which we talked about.
which is now The Last Grind.
Now it's called The Last Grind. I think it's on Tubi or one of those sites. Yeah. We'll look it up because that was a great movie that didn't get it's
super
proper
wide release. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys want to finish with Whistle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
give a
me and
quick
Callum
review.
stayed for a double feature and we watched Whistle after we watched Send Help.
Am I mistaken in remembering that it was originally called Death Whistle, and then they changed it just to Whistle?
I don't know.
Death Whistle's a better name.
Yeah, I feel like it was first marketed as Death Whistle, and then at some point they must have got cold
wouldn't
feet.
surprise me.
Yeah.
So what interested me about this
They're
film...
going to lose the good old Christians if they call it Death Whistle.
Yeah, because they're still
at
going to
least
come out to
at
see
least
us.
it's not called Aztec Whistle.
Yeah, that would have been.
Look, what drew me to this film was the 80s style poster art. I was like, I can't.
The poster was cool.
I dig it. I dig it very much.
I didn't want to waste my money on this because it definitely looked like a kind of standard Blumhouse-esque kind of, teens get killed by supernatural
And you're
force.
not wrong. However, that is my boat.
Yes,
that is
me
my
and Nathan
boat.
love that
Yeah,
stuff.
that is
I know.
my wheelhouse.
There are many of these types of crappy horror
There are
movies that
dozens
you
of
guys
us,
go to
James.
see. Where
Alan
I'm
would have
just like,
enjoyed it. See,
Yeah.
James, 10 years ago, mate, we saw all these movies.
Yeah.
Unashamedly.
You guys
with a
used to
full
see all
cinema.
the Conjurings and stuff, and you go, "Oh, James, you want to come?" I'm like, "No, I'm good."
Yeah, and then we were like, "Oh, James, we're gonna go see."
be miserable.
Do you remember we're gonna go see Smile, and you're like, "I'll pass."
That one turned out. Yeah, that one actually turned out to be great.
I also had to drag you to see Game Night. And
Yeah,
that turned out to be a
that's-
great
That
movie.
was you got lucky with that one. Yeah, that
So
actually
Whistle
great.
stars Daphne Keane as a emo goth girl who
I'm
for
interested.
Daphne Keane, Winona
In
Ryder
her-
Max's,
in
and
her
visits the
sh-
Beetlejuice
yeah.
house.
in her Sharon Sossaman arc, if you know who that is, the love interest in Knight's Tale. She's like got that kind of vibe going on.
I reckon it's closer to Winona Ryder. She's kind of
Yeah,
Winona
meets in
Ryder
the middle,
goth.
yeah.
Beetlejuice.
So she's in her like goth arc, and her father passes away, and so she moves to live with her cousin, who is also a high school student but works in a steel mill on weekends. So he can afford the rent and whatnot.
They're like high school kids. Yeah.
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 They're like older, like 17, 18.
Yeah.
last year
Yeah.
of high school.
And so at the beginning of the movie, a jock passes away under mysterious circumstances, potentially supernatural.
Well, yes.
Ooh. And Daphne Keane inherits his locker. And in his locker, she finds a Aztec urn, which has the aforementioned whistle in it.
Yeah.
And the shtick of the film is whoever blows the whistle, if you hear the tone, it will hasten your death to you.
Yeah.
It's
so like it's the
So
premise
it's Final
is
Destination, except that your death will like physically happen to you. So if you're fated to get hit by a car, or if you're fated to have a heart attack, when the ghost of death comes to you, that will physically happen to your body regardless of the circumstances.
Where you are, yeah. I think like the Aztec death whistle is a really creepy, cool. It's a real thing, and using it as a horror movie premise, I'm surprised it hasn't been done. I mean, maybe it has before, but like I don't remember it being done before. So it's a really cool thing, and it is an awful sound that they make. you can look them up on YouTube. Like people blow into it. It's like the most awful screaming,
Yeah.
screeching sound. So it is a cool idea to have like the haunted,
Yeah.
Aztec whistle.
In terms of performances, I think they all give a pretty decent performance. Daphne Keane, I think, gives the best performance as the
I
emo
can't remember
girl.
what's her name from Yellow Jackets. I forget that actress's name. She's in it too.
The score is okay, but the soundtrack, some of the needle drops are really great, and it's like literally needle drops because the way she connects with her past father is through vinyl.
Yeah, the soundtrack is banging.
The soundtrack is full of 80s and 90s hits.
Also, Nick Frost is in it. He's good in it.
Oh yeah, he's good.
But I was very impressed with some of the kills, such as they are. Some really inventive ways of because the idea of your death coming for you. Like, there are some interesting ways people can die, and the way it appears is interesting.
Because that's really what you want from these movies.
Yeah,
of interesting, unique kills.
Yeah, there's creative freedom in that kind of narrative because they're not limited to an extent location or conventional weapons.
Yeah.
So there's some really creative kind of spiritual killings.
It's kind of almost, in my opinion, the story is almost very Stephen King in structure as well. It has a very Stephen King villain who's not supernatural, like an actual human villain. Who crosses paths with the group. And he's kind of an interesting character as well. I like that a lot. Like I said, in my mind, it's like a Stephen King novel, where in the novel, you'd get heaps more fleshed out information on all this. There's some cool set pieces. Like there's like a festival carnival kind of thing where they have they go
as
through.
is traditional in these movies. There's everyone dresses up for the carnival.
The high school location's good. I love me a good American high school with good yellow American buses.
Letterman jackets.
Yeah. The steel mill's cool. Like you got it's some solid locations for a double A, essentially lower quality horror film.
How's the CG and practical effect?
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
Oh, okay.
It's not great. But
so I made the right decision to see it in the beginning.
But it's fun.
There's no green screen sets. It looks like they're all filmed either on really real made sets or on
the
location.
gore is still...
But the kind of all the supernatural gore and stuff like that is all CG.
But I didn't.
As
I
like
didn't
a third
go.
party observing this because I didn't watch the movie. I was just like, Callum's like gassing this film up.
Yeah.
And it's all going well. And then Jen's like, well, how's the CG? And you're like, oh, it's terrible.
Yeah, but again,
but
I
everything
didn't
else
go in
is
there.
okay. Yeah.
I didn't go in there expecting the highest quality you've ever seen.
It's also one of the reasons I decided not to see the movie is because like CG horror kills is so I hate it. So I would have been much more harsh on this film than I think you guys were.
To be fair, I think Nathan
even
and
though
me,
you acknowledge it,
Nathan and me can both agree that while the CG was bad,
it was fun.
the creative intent behind the ways that some of these poor
Final
teenagers...
Destination had too much CGI, but the kills are still
That's what I'm
fun.
saying. Like,
it's
these poor teenagers, when they meet their fate, it is done in a creative way that even though the CG is bad, I was like, that's kind of cool. And there is one specific death at the end where me and Nathan were both like, oh, okay. There was a couple of deaths where I was like, I haven't seen this before.
Okay, that's cool.
So
and I was like, it didn't look great. But also me and Nathan were like, that's one for the bank. So it's like, it sucks, but also it's not uninspired. Like Sam Raimi's CG was uninspired, whereas this is kind of like, it doesn't look great.
They swing for the fences.
Yeah,
that's right.
Considering there's so many horror movies out and like most of them suck, and like,
how many movies can you say where you're like, I haven't really seen that done before?
Yeah, 100%. So this seems to be like kind of in the middle of like,
it's not.
Okay,
I was explaining it to you before the show. It's somewhere between a higher quality horror movie like Weapons, and then Clown in a Cornfield.
Yeah,
where it's like it's in the middle, where it's like it's obviously made, but it's partially financed by Shudder, so it operates in that ecosystem of Clown in a
lower
Cornfield.
budget.
But it's from the director of The Nun, who's used to handling more money and whatever. And I guess he had an okay screenplay where he was like, let's see what I can do with a little less money.
Look, it's still I had a good time. I feel like Alan would enjoy it.
I wanted to see it, but I didn't want to pay for it on the big screen. Like I'll just wait for streaming.
You'll enjoy it as a streaming.
You'll enjoy moments of it.
Yeah,
and like I think you'll appreciate the fact that it's not green screen set. Really, it's like a lot of it's just shot. Like there's no green screen background.
And so Daphne Keene's performance as the lead is pretty solid.
She's always good.
She has a good charisma. I think she's gonna. I would like to see her go down this path of being like
Scream Queen.
Yeah, well, not necessarily Scream Queen, but
Yeah.
being like able to play these kinds of roles and not be ashamed. A lot of people feel ashamed, like, oh, it's a horror actress. Or
also,
actor or
she's a multi-layered character, which is kind of cool.
Okay.
There's a lot going on in all the different characters. They all have multiple layers.
Yeah,
but,
I liked it. I would watch it again. You know what I mean? Like I'd buy it on Blu-ray.
Mm.
Like I said, it's not the best,
Mm.
but also
It's fun.
it's fun, and it'll be available on Shudder at
Yeah,
some
yeah, I'll
point, and it's
check
like
it out.
definitely one of those ones to just throw on and be like,
Mm.
this is a bit of fun, watch it.
Yeah. We're almost out of time for tonight.
Yeah.
We have our website up and running. I guess, getting sick of not being able to post longer form content. And we tried Substack, but we didn't like all the Nazis on Substack.
Well, yeah.
So we're
Unfortunately, all the platforms seem to go that way.
So we decided we would put our money where our mouths are and create our own website, tuesdayreview.com.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see blog posts, reviews. Callum's got some written reviews up on
Callum
the site
so far
already.
has been putting up some reviews.
Yes, we have reviews of Send Help and, funnily enough, Whistle.
Have you been saying like this is Callum because I don't?
Yes,
I
at
don't
the end.
support your dodgy opinions.
We're just
No,
going to
no,
have
no.
terrible reviews with terrible taste and just say, this is from James.
Well, I get my own page, right? Like, what was it called, Alan? James's.
We can make James
Stinks. James Stinks Corner or whatever. This stinks. Everything. Yes, Mr. Chairman. Everything stinks.
So keep an eye on our website. We might get more creative with it in the future. But right
Yeah.
now we're doing some
There'll be
blog posts.
constant updates.
Yep, we're doing some blog posts, some review posts, longer form content. You can also, if it's your convenience, listen to the latest episodes of the
Podcasts,
Tuesday
yeah.
Review on our official website, tuesdayreview.com.
Mm-hmm.
We're also on some of the socials, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, Newsmast.
Sometimes, yeah.
At Tuesday Review AU on all of those platforms.
Like and subscribe on YouTube, ring the bell, all that good stuff.
We're also on Letterboxd. I'm Nathan B_90.
I'm channeldrifter.
Alum20.
I'm Callum Tuesday.
And we'll be back with more episodes. Stay tuned for next week, because next week's going to be a
Oh, yeah.
big one, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
As we might have a return guest to tell us all about their adventures. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.